Today on a very special edition of the Spotlight, we have Sergeant First Class J.T. Reinold. He's a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom and a current recruiter for the Army National Guard. We hear his story next on the Spotlight. From the beautiful studios of Alathus Realty in downtown Russellville, we welcome you into the Spotlight on this Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us here on Veterans Day. My name is Drew Brent. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668 or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. I want to dispense with the pleasantries for today because we have a serious conversation to have with a good buddy of mine, J.T. Reinold. John, hey.
How you doing, man?
Thanks for being here, buddy.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah.
You know, when you agreed to come on, I was looking forward to it for a couple of reasons. One, you and I have known each other for a long time.
Long time.
6, 7 years.
At least. Yeah.
But there's an even deeper connection there because you served with my brother in the National Guard. Were y'all overseas together?
Yeah, we went overseas in 2008 together. Served in Taji, Iraq for about a 9-month tour there. Yeah.
Yeah. I get a little bit emotional talking about overseas just because of how close my brother and I are.
Yeah.
And how long he was gone. And I know that there are hard conversations for veterans to have. We're going to have those conversations here in a few moments because you have graciously said that you wanted to talk about everything. But the first thing I want to talk about is I asked everybody this question.
Okay.
If you go back and you talk to 10-year-old JT,
oh boy,
and you say, "Hey, this is what's going to happen."
Yeah.
Is this what 10-year-old JT was thinking of back in the day?
Actually, yeah. This is exactly what 10-year-old JT was thinking about. Of course, I also wanted to be an astronaut scuba diver too. So I don't know. There's that whole aspect that's involved. An
astronaut scuba diver soldier.
Yeah. So being in the Army, because like my dad was a soldier, and he worked a civilian job, and he worked part-time with the National Guard too, and he'd come home in that uniform and stuff, and I'd look at that uniform and think, oh, that's the coolest thing in the world, because like he can go out in the woods and just disappear, you know.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? And then yeah, I mean I always wanted to be a soldier, so that 10-year-old me probably wanted this in the first place.
I think that it's also so interesting because I've talked to a lot of teachers in the last few weeks. And one common thread among teachers that I've heard is if you don't love the people and the students that you're serving, then your heart is just not right for teaching. I really feel that there's an element of that's true for soldiers as well. Is that a correct assessment?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. You think about, if you were wanting to go and service a specific community, but you didn't like the community you're supposed to be serving, what's the quality of service you're going to give in the first place? So, like, if an individual joins up in the Army, but they don't actually like the United States, then why are they there in the first place? And then same thing, so with like in National Guard, you have a twofold mission versus a one federal mission, right? So in the National Guard, you join up if you don't like the state of Arkansas, then why are you there? So, me personally, I mean, I grew up in Arkansas. I mean, you grew up in the free and independent state of Yale County, right?
Yes, I did.
And I grew up in Polk County, so we were across the river from each other. And I mean, I loved being in Arkansas. I love the natural state. I love everything about this. I love the River Valley region. I love the people that are in it. And so, yeah, so you definitely have to love what you're serving, or else the service there may not be as good. So,
walk me through the beginning of your career. I remember when my brother joined up. He came back from basic and AIT, advanced individual training, different than when he left.
Yeah.
Talk to me about those early years.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning then. So, for me, this journey really started on 9/11. So I was inside my Dover High School senior mythology class, and I had Mr. Wooten, who was my teacher at that time. We were listening to the lesson, and then Mr. Churchill, who was also a National Guardsman, he's our principal, came over the intercom and said, "Teachers, turn your TV on to the station." I think it was Channel 7 or whatever. So, and we had those big brick TVs back then. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
So
we were watching them too.
Yeah, the kind that if it falls on you, it's probably going to kill you.
Right, exactly.
Even though
but
it's
they're all
big.
hanging up by 2 bolts.
I know. There's 2 bolts just in the middle of that corner. You know for sure somebody's going to die pretty soon. Anyway, right. So turn on the TV just in time to see the towers, and one of them was smoking. And we saw that plane crash into the second one. That was a pretty dramatic moment for me. And I remember the shock and awe that I felt, and the personal attack. Because, and later on, I kind of thought this must have been what people felt like when Pearl Harbor happened. Yeah. And so, when that attack happened, I was ready to go right then, and I was wanting to go sign up to the Marine Corps or the Army or something to get overseas and start fighting. But my dad, in all of his wisdom, asked that I went ahead and tried to play some football in college first, because I had scholarships to a few places. I was probably the biggest guy to come out of Dover in many years. So anyway, graduated Dover High School, and I went and played football at Arkansas Tech for a while, and then I joined up in November 18th, 2002 in the Arkansas Army National Guard, Charlie Battery out of Dardanelle. That's what it was. Lots of great people from this community were inside that unit. And we went overseas. Our first tours went from Dardanelle, Arkansas to Fort Hood, Texas, to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and then over to Kuwait. And then we were in Iraq for close to about 12, 13 months. Yeah. And then maybe 14 months. And then we came back and we did a demobilization and came back home. It was a really long one. We ended up having a lot of contact over there. Remember, our unit specifically from Dardanelle felt like we had way more than our fair share of things happen to us, or us getting into things, than all of our surrounding companies and batteries that were from the 39th that came over there. And it felt like it was strange. So yeah, but we came back home, adjusted back into real life, and I went back over again in 2008. This is where your brother was there. Mm-hmm. But prior to going over with your brother as well, whenever he joined up, I was in this program called RSP. Yeah. Where I got to yell at your brother for a long time.
Right, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate the fact I tried to help. Tried to help a lot. And
he deserved it every time, yeah. 100% earned that.
Yeah. And then, so when I was in RSP, I was actually the guy it means Recruit Sustainment Program. It's something that the National Guard puts you in before you go to basic training and then AIT. So you're better prepared for basic training. Whereas, you go to an active duty service, they just send you straight there. We want to make sure that you're well prepared before you go. Anyway, so I had all these people that were going through my program, and then this new deployment was popping up saying that these same guys were about to go overseas that I had been training for so long. And I was like, well, they're not going over without me. Forget that. So I signed up. I was supposed to stay back, but I signed up to go over the second time. Went over the second time, did a lot of convoy escorts, and we did a lot of barrier missions in Solder City. Apparently we had a Chris Kyle encounter. I had no idea. There's a guy named McMinn that served with us that made this nice little comment to the Navy SEAL snipers that were working in Solder City doing Overwatch for us. And later on, they ended up finding out that when Chris Kyle wrote his book, he talked about the Arkansas boys and they could barely understand them. It's because of this one guy that was with us that was talking to him.
So great. It's one of our guys.
Yeah, it's one of our guys.
Outstanding.
He's actually not from Russellville area, but he talks like he's from Yale County. So
Yale County folks have a special language. Don't knock it till you try it. All right.
All my best friends seem to be from that area, so it's just how it goes. Yeah, we came back from that one. I ended up going back to that 1 weekend a month glory from for the National Guard so I could start my civilian career off. Became a police officer in Russellville, and then now I'm back full-time again as a recruiter with the Arkansas Army National Guard, and been doing that for about 3 or 4 years now. So
something that I've noticed about you too, you talk about, I did not know that you had signed up and volunteered to go in 2008.
I did.
I didn't know that about you. Here's something that the folks at home maybe don't know about you.
Mm-hmm.
You're also active in serving your church.
Oh, yeah.
Very active in your faith, active
Mm-hmm.
in serving your family, active in serving your country, active
Mm-hmm.
in serving the community as a police officer for several years.
Mm-hmm.
Is a soldier's heart synonymous with a servant's heart?
I guess ideally it should be. The whole purpose of service is to put something before yourself. So it's hard to, so putting that into words. When it comes to a person who serves overseas or serves inside a community or something like that, if you're doing that inside and you're doing it for a self-award or self-service or something, then I don't think that you're actually serving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
You're doing a job.
yeah, you're just doing a job for a paycheck. It's like, as a police officer, it was really rough because the daily struggle of the in and out of going through, like doing traffic stops and dealing from these strange highs and lows of adrenaline rushes and at 1 minute you're chasing a car, the next minute you're helping a kid fix his bicycle and putting a Band-Aid on his knee, and the next minute you're getting this guy who was beating his wife and getting him out of that house, and then next minute you're dealing with the person who's spitting on you because you wear a badge, and then the next minute you're going down and playing basketball with kids down there, because sometimes actually we do that just simply so we can decompress from the problems that everybody else is causing in the community, and then dealing with the stuff that most people don't hear or see about. And then anyway, so doing things like that, if your heart's not in the right place, it can kind of make you bitter, I guess. So
When my brother got home, I'm going to touch on something you just said.
okay.
When my brother got home, obviously we expected that there were going to be some differences. Obviously, we expected that there was going to be, the old timers called it shell shock. We anticipated that there was going to be some of that. What I didn't anticipate, and I'm not sure he did either, were the amount of triggers that really existed. And when you talk about being a police officer, I would think that would be even doubly difficult because you had served 2 tours, and then there's a whole myriad of triggers where you have to be on such a high adrenaline level and then go home and be low-key, even-keeled dad again.
Mm-hmm.
How's that balance? How do you balance it? How did you balance it?
So I have to play a little bit into both of those things. So I remember as a police officer, like we always had to be on guard with everybody around us because we're actively looking for the threat all the time, correct? So not knowing exactly where it may come from or if it even exists there in the first place.
Sure.
So like our encounters with people and like there's just 1,000 things that are always going on in your head. In the military, coming back from a combat tour overseas, the shell shock thing is a real difficult situation because you think about the threat is out there and it is everywhere. So when we were overseas and we had these, and usually after the firefights and stuff, it actually took a couple of days for things to kind of settle in and realize just what just happened, because you have those adrenaline peaks that happen. Then after an adrenaline peak, it goes down real low where you're just like so tired, and then you just sleep it off for a while, and then you come back up, and a couple days later, after everything's kind of sorted through in your mind, you just realize what you went through. It kind of makes a permanent ingrained fear,
Yeah.
or new understanding, or like your eyes are opened up to this brand new reality that life is fleeting, and or that people really do want to hurt you type stuff. And so when you come back home, and though you're not in that same place, small things, and it's hard to even say what they are sometimes, can cause those feelings to just suddenly rush back to the surface again. I'll give you an example. So we did the Fall Fest happen just recently downtown.
Yeah.
It was a great time. I was walking around. The Lathis had its awesome booth set up down there with the chili and stuff.
We had a big time down there. Yeah,
you did. I ate a lot of good chili there.
Yeah, there was good chili there.
Yeah, it was
Ours
really
was
good
the
chili.
best, but it's okay.
Didn't win, did it?
We missed it by a handful of votes, is what we're told. Single digits.
Okay. Well, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was close.
Kudos on the chili maker, whoever that was.
That's Brad, and I can't.
Really?
Take it. Yeah, Brad and Brent, man, they're killer.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. So, but yeah, so we were down in the Fall Fest area, and we were walking around, and for a long time, I was fine in a crowd. As a police officer, I had a lot of troubles in a crowd, but like after I left law enforcement, I kind of started settling down a little bit, and like, I guess in my mind or in my instincts, I had no problems with being in a crowd or having my back to a lot of people and stuff. But then just one moment popped up when I was actually getting my cup and my spoons and stuff. And there was so much stuff that was going on around me at the same time, and I wasn't able to focus on everything that was happening, and there were so many things moving. I had this massive rush of adrenaline pop up inside me, and I felt like I've got to get out of here. That was the first thing that was going through my head is I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. And so I remember, like, since something like that hasn't happened in so long, like the people around me were like, "Why are you getting so frustrated? What's going on? What's the deal?" And so I was like, just please just hold this cup or something. Let's just go over to the side. And then so we finally get over to the side, and I started, like, my heart starts fluttering and stuff. And I'm breathing and breathing and breathing, and then like start calming down. I'm like, okay, everything is okay. Everything is okay. And it's so dumb because the last time I was even overseas was in 2008. It was a long time ago. Okay. In the process of, like, the things that have happened since then, everything. And then my last time to actually be involved in even a real bona fide firefight when things were really going bad was in 2005. So I don't understand, still to this day, I have no understanding of why it is that these things are popping up, but yeah, it still happens even today.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it.
I cannot relate to that experience in any way. I can only relate it in so much as my brother and I are very close.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've spent a lot of time together over the years, and I've noticed the same thing. And it could be things that I would not have anticipated. When he came home in 2008, he was on leave because our grandfather had passed, and he came home for 2 weeks. But unfortunately, when he got in, it was around the 4th of July. And so, the firecrackers and all of that going off, you expect that to trigger a response. I expected that would be okay. But then there would be just little things, a fork hitting the floor of the kitchen, and there was a sudden jerk and aggressive behavior. The families have to learn what the mental toll is on these soldiers. And I also believe that there has to be an understanding that this never really goes away. Is there, how was that conversation like with your family? I know what it was like for ours.
So to me, this seems like the easiest way to talk to or get this understanding through to your family is like, so because there's the conversation that you have with them saying, these things happen to me. This causes sometimes some crazy things to go off that don't seem normal, right? But then there's the time that passes in between those conversations. And sometimes if you don't fully disclose the things that actually happen so they can understand the gravity of the situation that you're actually going through, even if it's not something that's really all that horrific, but just the emotions that you felt when you're in those situations and how they have changed you, per se, without fully disclosing that to people or disclosing that to the people that you care about the most, they're not going to understand how to be watching for those triggers and to understand what's actually going on. Instead, they're going to just interpret it as you're just basically being mean or
Right.
something right now, or you're just you're being unreasonable, or you're being rude, or something like that. Even
Right.
small things like a person who you feel very close to going on, like just making certain comments can even be something that can trigger, like, it's strange. It's very strange.
I was at dinner in your house
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago, and somebody yelled, just kind of out of the blue. And I even noticed then your heightened sense. And the reason that we're focusing on this so much is because with Veterans Day, there's always that appreciation of, people at sporting events, they'll have the veterans stand, if you've had military service, stand, and everybody applauds, everybody claps, and it's this great feel good moment.
Mm-hmm.
But for people who either were deployed or who had family members deployed, Veterans Day is every single day. It's not a necessarily a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
There's an honor, there's a respect to it, but there is
Yeah.
another toll that has to be taken into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason that I wanted to make sure that we talked about that, was because don't lose sight of the fact, folks, that we honor Veterans Day, but we should not be doing it once a year. And honoring veterans goes far beyond just having them stand up in the middle of a football game and clapping. Honoring veterans is understanding that there is a whole process to this. My brother and JT are the two veterans that I know the most, and they were gone. It's been 13 years since you were last overseas.
Mm-hmm.
My brother's last deployment, technical deployment, was to Houston for hurricane relief.
Oh, well, I did that one too.
I mean, yeah, you went to that one too. But even then, I mean, just think about the mental toll of this. All right, so you're in war zones, but then you go and you're serving in this hurricane ravaged area, and you're, I mean, that's not easy emotionally or mentally either.
Yeah, see, that's a lot of despair that you see when you go down there. It was nice that the community came together in Texas. I remember that being a big deal, but yeah, it's a whole different world. You wear a lot of hats, especially when you're in the National Guard. You have to be used to wearing a lot of hats. And I used to tell my soldiers that you have something called this switch that you need to be able to turn off and on when the time comes, right? And law enforcement is the same thing. When you come home from working at the police department, you have to make sure that you turn that switch off, because mama's going to be mad whenever you come home if you treat her like somebody you find on the street. So anyway, so yeah, that hat that you wear whenever you're doing like a disaster relief thing is not the same hat that you wear whenever you're going into a combat action zone. It's also not the same hat you wear when you go to a drill weekend. It's not the same hat you wear when you go to your civilian job. Like, there's having that ability to switch between these different roles and responsibilities is a pretty big deal. So, but anyway, yeah. So,
I want to ask about what life is like now. Because life now is a little bit different than what it was, when you were going all over the country and all over the world.
Yeah.
You're a recruiter now, proud recruiter, honored recruiter. Have you reacclimated completely?
I feel like I have. I mean, there's a certain knowledge that exists inside people that have gone and experienced certain things, right? And I guess they call that actually wisdom. It's not really knowledge anymore. Understanding what is actually going on outside this nation also creates the ability for me to be even prouder that I'm a part of this nation.
Yeah.
Seeing, like, all of our differences we have, Republican, Democrat, the liberal and conservative and all this other stuff, like, these are all opinions and these are viewpoints, right? But this is the only country in the world where these viewpoints can come together and, like, somebody's not getting thrown in jail for giving that viewpoint. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, well, one of the few, I would say. I look at the stuff going on in other countries and think about why in the world would somebody want to be in that country dealing with the things that they're dealing with? And after experiencing life, like over in Iraq, that's a big, huge culture difference between the culture here in the United States of more of a freedom, right? But having this basis of spending time overseas and doing this, and it's kind of given me a lot more broad knowledge about from whenever I come back home, being able to share this with people and understanding that we're just like small specks in the whole world. But acclimating back into society itself, I still find myself getting angry about people being upset about certain things. Like for instance, sometimes standing in line at Walmart for the one person who's actually checking out groceries and stuff. Like, I actually don't mind standing in line. I've been standing in line for a long time. That's what they do in the military. You stand in a line. You hurry up and get in that line, and then you wait in that line until it's time for you to do something. So I do feel more at home being out of, like, say, a city where I'm not constantly having cars driving by. I like being out in the country. I like trees. It's kind of hard to say whether or not you're actually acclimated, because honestly, the life before my 2003 to 2005 deployment, I don't remember a lot of life prior to that. It's almost like it was something else. And whenever I came home, I know I changed. My mom even said that she's like came back a different person. And I know it changed me. But I don't think that change was necessarily good or bad. I think that the acclimation that comes whenever you come back home, God, I'm wandering around this and I don't know how to actually put it into words. Let me say it this way. Okay, so if acclimating coming back to home, it's not necessarily that you ever really come back home. It's more like that all these places that you've been, all these people that you were, continuously just add on to who you have become. And so you kind of make yourself fit into the puzzle as that piece as you go, even with all the imperfections that have constantly been piled on you throughout your career. So I don't know if there's ever actually an acclimation back into the world. You just continue.
Right. You know, there's a whole lot of people who talk about their identities being wrapped up in what it is that they do. We've talked about that. I don't know if we talked about this on the air or off the air. I can't remember. We may have started the show with that.
I don't remember.
But my identity is this boisterous personality with a loud voice, and but that's not actually who I identify as. My identity is in obviously God, but then also being a dad and being a husband.
Yeah.
Do you also see that? I mean, or is there a part of you that is straight up your soldier?
That's a hard. Oh man, so my wife works here at Olathe as well, Christina Reinold.
Check out her interview from last week.
That's
she did a great job.
Yes, she did. So you can ask her. Pretty well. I mean, I try to be as best a dad, brother, son, all this, but the soldier in me pretty well tends to stay on the surface the whole time. So I worked at the Russellville Police Department. There's this awesome police officer that came from Dover as well, played football a couple years before me, and his name's Michael Evans. Officer Evans is a really cool guy. And like when I came onto the police department, he kind of mentored me and stuff and kind of took me under his wing. And then there's this time though, whenever he looked at me, he said, John, you're a 100% soldier. And it's kind of hard sometimes to be a soldier and a police officer at the same time, because a soldier is something a little bit different. And he's like, you're our only soldier. That is like, not saying like that I couldn't be a police officer. He's just saying that like he could tell. Mm-hmm. And then now as I go through my life and I talk to people, they can always tell. I don't understand that specific aspect. to me, it's not being a soldier. To me, it's being a servant.
Right.
So everything that I've done in my life has always been about trying to be of service of something else that's bigger than me. So that, like, in that service, like, say, for instance, serving the church, for instance. I go to the Journey Church, love the Journey Church, a huge fan of it. And all the things, that every way that they've changed and stuff, I've tried to to assist in facilitating in any way I can. Every pastor that I've ever, like, I've even gone to, like, working in youth groups. I did not like working youth groups. I don't like being in youth groups, right? But when certain people are taking on that leadership role, I know for a fact that they need to have someone that can be in the background to help them, but not in the spotlight, ever in the spotlight.
Except for now when you're currently on the
spotlight, which is, yeah. So I always felt like it was my job to be in what was at one time called like an armor bearer, right? To be the guy that could be behind the scenes to get things done. And the same way, like being in the military, to do the service of the nation or do the service of the state, it's the same way. Just, I don't want to, it's not about being in the spotlight about this stuff. It's about making sure that I can serve something bigger than me and be a part of that. And that is more important than me, regardless of the cost it takes. That's why I'm saying these problems that I'm even facing right now, the fact that I got to go do that and do that for my country is far more important and far exceeds, how to say, it's far more important that I was able to actually do that and be the person who got to do that, to put my country ahead of me, to put my people around me, which that was a huge deal. All the people that served with me, who even though I don't see them for, God, I haven't seen them in years. I talk to them on the phone. It's like they're still my best friends. And the fact that I was able to serve those people beside me and make sure that they came home safe, that's the cost of what happened to me is nothing compared to being able to make sure that they made it home safe, or that my country was able to be successful in its mission, or that, like, the church is successful in what it's doing, or that the city itself is safer than is safe and sound and stuff, or that the military, or the National Guard specifically, has the people it needs to continue going and stuff. And like being a recruiter, there's a massive toll on you being a recruiter. That is tough. And so that toll is worth it.
My brother has said more than once to me, two things that bother him are being called a hero, or thank you for your service. He appreciates the thank you for your service. He really, truly appreciates that. But what he has said to me before is, that's just what I do. That's just what we do. That's what we're supposed to do. Very uncomfortable being called a hero. Are you okay with that?
It's a complicated question. So being called a hero, I'm not a hero. God, this is going to sound so cliche. So cliche, and I'm sorry about this. Everybody at home, I'm sorry if you've heard this before and stuff, but I'm not a hero, but I've literally served with many of them overseas. And those guys, a lot of the guys that I served with, they kept our spirits up, and those guys were heroes to me. The guys that did not make it home, those guys are the real heroes, because that kind of a effect that you have, that ripple that comes from the death of a soldier overseas, that goes off among all the other soldiers that are there, and the home life and everything that happens, and realizing, hey, that could have been me and stuff. Those guys who actually paid that ultimate price, those guys are the heroes.
I have two more questions. One's really, really happy, so we can boost this up.
Sounds good.
Have some happiness here, because and again, folks, when you're watching this, the reason that we're doing it this way, especially on Veterans Day, is to make sure that we understand what this is and what this costs. Veterans Day is not one day a year. It is every day for the families who have had people who served. And while it was, I mean, my brother served, so I didn't feel it as much as, somebody's wives or children did, but I certainly still felt it.
Of course you did.
Anytime that phone rang and it was him, or, that collect number, you were always a little bit afraid of what was on the other line. You just never knew.
Yeah.
So here's the happy question. You have done all of these things. You've been this servant. You're still a servant. And you've got great kids.
Oh yeah.
My
kids are amazing.
You've got a great family. I mean, we've gotten the chance. My wife and your wife have been friends for umpteen years.
Oh yeah, since they were both kids.
Yeah, so they've known each other for a long time. We became friends through that, and then through church, and the fact that you were with my brother for so long. You got a great family, man.
I know. I'm pretty proud of them.
Brag on.
Golly. So, yeah, my daughter. She's my favorite daughter ever, right? Even though she's my only one.
Right.
I always told her she's my favorite daughter.
Favorite daughter,
So,
right.
Yeah. So I spread the love evenly.
Right.
No one can be my favorite.
Right.
So my daughter's, of course she's beautiful. She's got her mom's looks, which is a nightmare for a dad. She's currently, right now, she's dating a very good, strong Christian man. He's in high school still, from the Russellville High School. She's a hard worker. She goes to a youth group that's actually down in Dardanelle,
I spoke to them last week. Yeah,
home church youth group. She's actually actively serving in one of the leadership roles down there.
She is.
I mean, that doesn't make you proud. I mean,
right, exactly.
Anyway, she's responsible. She takes care of her schoolwork. She still goes to work and stuff. I mean, she's amazing. She's just absolutely amazing. My oldest son Malachi, he's a football player, one of the fastest runners over at the Russellville Junior High. He's like, so I have this problem. I think he's probably the best athlete that's ever existed in my life, right? So when he plays football, it's just the coolest thing for me to watch. And then he goes to track meets and he's like winning all these things, and he's so smart, super smart, and he's got this great sense of humor, and he's like my buddy, right? Like we can go places and we can talk, and it's fun to talk to him. He even has this ability for some reason I can open up to him. I can like talk to him. This is my problems, man. I got this issue. He's a guy that I like to talk to, and he's also an avid gamer. Right. So, and I love playing Call of Duty Mobile.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, but I cheat, so I use a tablet and I use an Xbox One controller. I'm that guy. Like we can sit there and talk, like we can talk about stuff all day long. But he's also real quiet and reserved a lot of times too, and like I don't know, it's really fun having him around. And he's also my hunting buddy and all this. Like he's a very good friend, and he's my son, but he's a good friend. And my youngest, Chet, oh my goodness, he's a little ball of energy. And
always I have never seen him
energy.
not be energetic.
Yeah. He's got a great sense of humor. He's always exploring things. He looks at the world through wondrous eyes, and he's on the robotics team now, or in the robotics club at Center Valley Elementary, and he's an amazing artist, and like he's doing good things. He's one of those. He's going to be the brainchild. Right. He's going to be that kid that makes a fortune one day because he invents a brand new kind of cell phone that gets implanted in your ear or something.
Right.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? Yeah. Like him and Elon Musk would probably get along very well, talking back and forth. Yeah. But anyway, I've got some amazing kids. Amazing. I don't know how, because I mean it's definitely the efforts of my wife that have made him so awesome. Because like most of the things I've ever done in my career or in my life have always pulled me away from home. So it's definitely all credit to my wife because she's really good at what she does. So
final question, we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
What does this day mean to you?
Oh, Veterans Day. I don't know, because I'm not that guy who necessarily needs the thanks. To me, for a person who's been overseas, I guess So veteran actually means just an individual who's actually served before, right? And then you have combat veterans, the ones who've served and gone overseas and fought, right? To me, the idea of Veterans Day actually makes me think of my dad, my uncles, my grandpa, the generations back of all the soldiers in my family who have gone overseas or fought in some of the wars, the Revolutionary War, just all these wars that have fought in the nation. To me, it's time for me to reflect back on that service that have happened through all the generations of my family and the people I've known, and it's a time for me to remember those that served with me, and a reminder to reach out to them and talk to them, because make sure they're all okay. But yeah, so it's nice to have people say thank you for your service and stuff, but at the same time, that's not, for me, it's the day that I think of all the other people that were out there, because that was just what I did,
Right.
But everybody else that was out there with me, I need to make sure that they're okay right now. So that's what I do on Veterans Day.
JT,
Mm-hmm.
this was great, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Thanks for coming on. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
That sounds good.
Love you, man.
Yeah.
That's the spotlight for this Veterans Day. Thanks so much for joining us. Got another spotlight coming your way tomorrow. For now, if you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. 479-968-5668. I'm Drew Brent. We'll see you back here tomorrow.